Hey everybody, Brian Raisin coming at you live from Ohio State's campus today. I am down by the beautiful and well-known Mirror Lake. It's just been reopened after a couple of years of renovation. And so I thought I'd shoot a lecture down here. This one's on mentoring and leadership. Mirror Lake would be kind of a cool place to do some mentoring. It's quiet, it's peaceful, you can talk. So let's jump into mentoring and see what that looks like. Kind of from a theoretical perspective or a defined and then a practical application as well. First question though, before we get started, pardon the planes flying overhead. Let's say you're going on a road trip. Let me give you 30 seconds to jot down what you'll take with you. Go. Okay, I won't make you write them all down. But in your mind, I can imagine that you're thinking, oh, we probably need some food, some money, maybe our smartphone, maybe a companion or a friend or a couple of friends. You could have a long list after 30 or 60 seconds. You can just imagine what that list might be like. But here's a question. Did you take a map? Was that in your list? If so, then tell me why. Because guess what? I didn't tell you where you were going. How can you know what to take if you don't have your destination? Destination is everything. Let's say you're taking a family trip up to the state fair, the Ohio State Fair. You just need a few things, a little cash, your family. And but if you're going to lead a group of students overseas on an experience of some sort, that's a totally different thing. You start talking about passports, you start planning months in advance, it's a totally different budget. So again, the destination determines everything. Well, in mentoring, it's the exact same thing. We've got to know our destination and the destination or potential destinations of our mentees before we can really dive in and know what tools to deploy. So let's talk about that today. Oh, well, just reiterating, if you don't know where we're going, how do you get there? You don't know. And mentoring, part of your role is to help them figure that out, figure out where they're going. All right. So the objectives for today, mentoring and leadership, understanding kind of that fundamental elements of mentoring, what it's about, thinking through the importance. And then the third thing is to really realize that mentoring starts with you. So let me unpack that and understand or try to explain what that means. The fact is, if you want to think through the mentoring process, you have to realize that you can be in a life-changing role for people. Your words and actions can really influence them, their careers, their lives, their family relationship, even their mental health. That's not an exaggeration. So my challenge is that one of the most important things you can do is work on your own EQ, your own emotional intelligence. And if you watch that series, if not, go back and watch it. Then you'll see what I'm talking about. I'll give you just a couple of examples really quickly here. What's on your reading list? What TED Talks are you watching? What professional development activities are you undertaking? Have you written a personal mission? Do you know where you're going? And do you have a mentor? Maybe you've been assigned someone to mentor in your organization, or someone's asked you if you would be their mentor. But do you have one? And it works both ways. I have a couple, and I'm also mentoring several people. I need that mentor for myself to keep me on track as well. Even though I have 30 years of experience, I still need those folks to talk to and to give me ideas and help me out. So as you improve your skills, you can exponentially assist other people. I really believe that. So in your mind, think about, what is mentoring? In your own words, what would you describe it? Well, in general, professional relationship, the experienced person, the mentor, assists the other person, the mentee, with less experience in developing skills, knowledge, and approaches. So I like this word, approaches. We don't always think about that, but it's the approach to, or the process of, growing personally and professionally. How do we help them do that? A couple of other quick definitions: interpersonal exchange, experience with the less experience, guidance and assistance, psychosocial, career facilitation, if you're thinking on-the-job types of things. And maybe formal or informal. You could have a program that is explicitly where they assign you, or you might just do it. So why mentor on the job? Well, again, support and development. It's positively associated with career advancement, compensation, satisfaction, and commitment. Think of those last two items. Those are things that cost your organization money. If you have employee turnover, that's a real cost. Hiring people takes a lot of money, takes a lot of your time. And so if you can keep the good people by having programs, it can really help. Also, it aids your protege, socialization, acquiring behaviors, knowledge, attitudes, that culture. Brian and Tim Kite talk about the organizational culture, how critical that is, particularly for new people. Mentoring can really help you drive that. So Mentoring begins with trust. This is a slight aside, but I think it's critical and germane to the conversation around mentoring. What do you need to do to build trust with someone? So think about that. If you were in a group, I'd have you brainstorm and share together. But just think about that for a second. How do you build trust? And why would that be important? One of the most important things, perhaps, in a mentoring relationship. So the trust quotient, this Green and Ho talk about this trustworthiness against these 4 variables. 1, credibility. I can trust what she says about whatever because she's been credible on the subject. Or the reliability, our actions. If he says he'll deliver tomorrow, I trust him. He's dependable. We know that's going to happen. Intimacy, this is kind of the deepest level where you feel safe and secure around someone. I can trust her with that information. She's never violated my confidentiality before. She won't embarrass me. So I know these things. So that's the kind of the deepest level. And then you need to also ask, and looking at kind of the trust quotient, what's their orientation? What's their focus? Are they focused on themselves or on the other person? And that can make a big difference when you're looking at or choosing or pairing up mentors. So again, I like and the Q Aspire, I'll show you a slide just a second from Tanmay Vora. He talks about and has an infographic here on the 3 levels of trust in a relationship. You've got the deterrence, you've got the rules, so laws and contracts, policies, and then the next level, kind of the knowledge-based. I know that you have my best interest in mind, and so I trust that. I feel secure that you're going to help me with that. But then the identity piece gets into that personal place where you really know the person, they know you, and you're mentoring at a different level that can really help both of you, in fact, more than you might think. So here's Tanmay's blog. He blogs from India on a lot of management, leadership and management things. I really like his work. He says, trust isn't something you demand. You have to earn it. Through intent, the why, your actions that support the intent, what you do. And then most importantly, take those actions to the utmost integrity with connection, a human connection. That's the how. And we have to do that consistently because trust is only built one step at a time. And we all know it can also go backward if we're not careful, or if that trust is broken. Jim Kouzes came. He's got a couple of really good leadership books I highly recommend. He came and spoke at Ohio State a couple of years ago, and he talked about credibility as a precursor to trust and it being a foundational principle of leadership. And it was really fascinating what he said. He talked about managers with high credibility in leadership, and it's the same as having high credibility in mentoring. So you think about high manager credibility. The people in the organization, they're glad to work here, they tell people about it, they talk it up, they feel that ownership, versus the low manager credibility. They only produce when they're being watched. They're motivated primarily by money, not the intrinsic motivation. That's a talk coming up on motivation. They speak differently in private than they do in public, and they might be considering looking for another job. So overlay that with mentorship. Are your folks in your organization who have an assigned mentor, are they proud to tell others they're being mentored? Or is it something they don't really talk about with their friends? Do they see their values as similar to their mentors? They feel ownership and connected? Or does that mentor have a low credibility? They only engage when they're forced to. It's more of a mandated program. You really need to think about that if you're setting up a mentorship program. We have some organizations here at Ohio State, excuse me, who are working on doing that right now because they see the value of it. But it has to work, and trust is one of the bottom underlying components that you begin with. So being a coach or a mentor, it's an advanced form of leadership. That's a quote from Kouzes. I really love him. He talks about these 5 practices: modeling the way, inspiring the vision, that shared vision, challenging the process, enabling others to act, and encouraging the heart. They're the same in coaching and mentoring. You can apply these same 5 practices of leadership to optimize relationships. I really like how he lays it out and how it overlaps with mentoring. So modeling the way, you do the things that you're talking about with your mentee. You're setting an example. You're helping them with that vision. What is possible in the future for them, for the organization. What's exciting and ennobling possibilities that you can help your mentee with. Challenging the process. Realize that just because you may have more experience, they may have some great ideas that they brought in. So you can encourage the person you're mentoring to experiment, maybe take a few risks. That can really help them and give them that courage to do that, to challenge that process. And then enabling others to act, helping them feel strong, capable, informed, fostering collaboration, making introductions, again, building trust. the big one that really resonates is the heart, and that gets that intimate part of mentoring, that third level of trust, caring. You guys know this phrase, people don't care how much you know, what? Until they know how much you care. Do you really care? If so, then they'll sit and stop and listen with you and talk with you and learn. So this is, I threw this in here just as a kind of the theoretical constructs, all the types of leadership there are, and you can study all these, you can read about all of these. Each are nuanced in slightly different ways, but all of them have opportunity when it comes to mentoring and working with mentors. An example, or so let me ask you, do you have an example? Can you think of somebody who's in a leadership position in one of those areas who was also a really good mentor? When was someone helping you? Or do you have a bad example? We've probably seen both. But if you think of those good examples, then you can imagine the next step is putting yourself in that position with your mentee, with somebody else, and figuring out how you can really help them with their career, with their personal and professional development. Some real opportunity there. So I just barely am scratching the surface. We're doing the short videos just to get you started, and we'll have some suggested readings that will be included in the outline. And but just bottom line, there's a lot of literature out there on coaching, mentoring, motivation, which is this series of talks that we're giving. The resources are great, but remember you also have each other. You have other people on your team, other people in your family, maybe with a faith group, could be with a civic organization that you can chat with and talk and learn some of these tips, and can really help you, again, then go help the person that you're mentoring. Lots of energy, advice, encouragement. I love that. Crowdsourcing, if you will. So it's good stuff. Next video on coaching, we'll dive into the coaching and what's the difference between mentoring and coaching. Are they the same? Kind of, they can be, but there are some nuanced differences, some explicit things that you do in coaching that you might not do in mentoring. So we'll talk about that next. So thanks very much. Talk to you soon.